All right, this meeting is called to order. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of Boynton Beach Community Redevelopment Agency Board meeting. Today is Tuesday, June 13th, 2023, and the time is now 6 p.m. Before we proceed, as always, I want to remind everyone of our rules of civility and decorum. Officials must first be addressed by the chair and not interrupt a speaker. Public comments must be addressed to the board as a whole and not to any individual on the dais or in the audience. Personal attacks, insults, displays of rudeness, and lack of respect are strictly prohibited. Disruptive behaviors from the audience, including but not limited to yelling, stamping of feet, and similar demonstrations are likewise prohibited. Please govern yourselves accordingly. Our invocation for this evening will be led by Board Member Woodrow Hay, followed by our Pledge of Allegiance led by Board Member Amy Kelly. Let's all stand for the invocation. Let's all stand for the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. O Lord our God, how excellent is thy name in all the earth. We come before you today with open hearts and mind as the CRA Board of Boynton Beach. We're gathered to make decisions on behalf of our communities. We ask that you guide us in our deliberation to make choices that will benefit all of their community, regardless of race, religion, gender, socio-economic status, or whatever. We pray that you allow each member of the CRA board to see the importance of equality in all aspects of our decision. Lord, we know that the struggle for equality is ongoing, but we stand firm in our belief that every human being is created in your image and deserves to be treated with respect and dignity. We pray that everyone will be recognized as equal before the law in the United States of America, and that unjust discrimination will be eradicated from our society. And finally, Lord, we ask that you help us to recognize and challenge our biases, our prejudices, so that we may become the agents of change that you would have us to be. We pray for unity, peace, fairness to come to our society, and grant us the courage and wisdom to work toward a brighter and more just future for all. Please let every heart say amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. If we could please begin the roll call.
Chair Ty Penserga,
I am here.
Vice Chair Thomas Turkin,
Present.
Board Member Angela Cruz,
here.
Board Member Woodrow Hay,
Here.
Board Member Amy Kelly.
Here.
Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. We're going to move on to agenda approval, additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda. For myself, I have two very minor items. The first one is pertaining to item 8A. It should not say announcement. It should say recap of, because this is the event that already occurred. That is item 8A. And as always, I want to ask my colleagues to look at section 15, CRA projects in progress. If there is any particular item you want to hear from staff, and whatever we don't need to hear, we'll remove that from the agenda so we don't keep them here longer than they need to be. Is there anything you would like to hear from staff from section 15?
No.
Okay, that means we're not going to hear any of section 15. So for those of you that are here to present on that, have a good night. That's it for me. Let's turn to my right with Board Member Cruz. Do you have any amendments?
I have no
additions?
amendments, Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Vice Chair Turkin, you are online. Do you have any amendments?
Negative.
All right, thank you. Board Member Hay
No.
and Board Member Kelly.
No.
All right,
you.
thank you. Hearing nothing else, may I have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Board Member Kelly, a second from Board Member Hay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Motion passes. Agenda is amended. We're moving on now to legal. I'm going to turn to our council. Do we have any particular updates for this meeting?
No legal updates tonight. Just happy to be with you all as usual.
All right, thank you. Section 7, informational items and disclosures by board members and staff. Let's begin on my left. Board Member Kelly, do you have any informational items or disclosures?
No, Chair, I do not. Thank you.
Okay. Board Member Hay?
I did attend the P2P circles meeting on yesterday afternoon.
Mhm.
That was very well received. We had County Commissioner Mac Bernard there and amongst others. So that went very well and had a good turnout for showing people how to handle the monies and to, as collectively as a body, to create a network that they're not in this alone, and that there are support people that they can reach out to. I had the opportunity to speak a little bit, and that was the gist of it. So, thank you.
Wonderful. I'm sure you represented us well. Thank you,
Thank you.
Commissioner.
Thank you.
As for myself, I have no informational items or disclosures. At most, as many of you know, I did attend the Rock the Plaza event. Thank you to everybody who made that happen. I know it rained, but we can't control everything. But nonetheless, you did a great job. And also the ribbon cutting for the new dentist office. Dr. Sally, how do I say her last name? Hamerna? Dr. Sally. I'm going to say Dr. Sally. All right, and that's it for me. I'm going to turn now to Vice Chair Turkin. Any informational items or disclosures?
No, I don't have anything. No, good to go.
Thank you. Board Member Cruz?
No disclosures. I also attended the Rock the Plaza event and the ribbon cutting, and I just want to thank staff for all the hard work you do. You guys were soaked under the rain and you had smiling faces, did a great job. So thank you. Everything was well prepared. The balloons, the ribbon, the scissors, everything was just perfect and beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. So that concludes 7. We're going to move on to 8. Again, this is the recap of Rock the Plaza at 1 Boynton. Who do we have to do that recap?
Yes, Mercedes Coppins, our business promotion manager.
Okay.
Good evening, Board. Mercedes Coppin, Business Promotions and Events Manager. So last Thursday, we held the Rock the Plaza event at 1 Boynton. This was an activation for the year at that plaza. It had live music by the band Rogue Theory, as well as family-friendly games and activities. We had 8 Boynton Beach Bucks offers that we had for various businesses throughout the plaza. We do have some of those with us here tonight. So if you'd like any of those, we have packets available for you. We did a ribbon cutting ceremony for Dentology. Thank you for your participation and for guiding that for us. And we also disseminated information about the Heart of Boynton Village apartments and shops. The rental space that is available for the full service restaurant. We shared information about that, as well as the CRA grants that are available for that with Bonnie's information. And these are just some photos from the event here on the next page. This shows the attendees that we had out for the event. It did rain, as board chair said, but we did have a fair amount of people that stayed out through that rain to support the local businesses. And at Hip Hip Hooray, we had a pet adoption event that they hosted there. So that was a nice addition to the event. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. And let me just say, those are some good looking pictures.
Yes.
I need a copy of that. Thank you for that update. If there's nothing else, we're going to move on to public comments for items that are not on the agenda. As always, 3 minutes per person. After we conclude with those in the chambers, we're going to go to those online. And you know the drill. So if you would like to speak on items not on the agenda, please approach the podium now. And okay, seeing no one in the room approaching the podium, we're going to go to online. Ms. Kerfman, do we have anybody with their digital hands raised?
No one has their hands raised.
Exciting night. That means public comments are now closed. All right.
Board Chair, if I may, would you like to entertain public comments for consent agenda items as well?
To my knowledge, that is not something we typically do. However, I am open to it. Do we have a guest for these consent agenda items?
Not that I'm aware of in particular, but just to allow the opportunity.
I am perfectly good with that as well. All right, so let me open up public comments now for the consent agenda section. Is there anybody who would like to speak on any items under consent agenda? All right, seeing none, let's check online. Ms. Kerfman, digital hands for consent agenda.
No hands are raised at this time.
All right, thank you. Public comments now are truly closed. Okay. Our council wants us to be absolutely safe, and I concur. So thank you for that. Better to be safe, right? So now we're moving on to consent agenda. Are there any items that my colleagues would like to pull under section 10 consent agenda? All right, I'm seeing none from my colleagues. May I have a motion to approve the entire consent agenda? I heard a motion from Board Member Cruz, a second from Board Member Hay. All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, so now we're going to move on to CRA Advisory Board items. Ms. Schutt, our Executive Director, if you'd like to give us a brief update on the CRAB Board.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Chair and board members. Twee Schutt for the record. This item was assigned to the CRAB Board, the CRA Advisory Board, to weigh in and provide comments to the CRA draft scope for the CRA plan amendment. At the June 1st meeting, there was no quorum. And however, the 3 board members that were there chose to just discuss informally the scope and to go over the scope. At the end of the discussion, they have came to the conclusion that this is an important project, that they would rather have more input on this, seeing that also there are there's 5 vacancies right now on the board. One of the members have selected our chair, Ms. Cobb, has put in her name to be reappointed, but with the streamlining and relooking at the ordinance for all advisory board, the commission is undergoing right now. We would recommend that this item can be discussed on at 13, along with 13C. If you choose to, you can also table this until the full board has been reappointed to the next meeting after the reappointment has occurred, because obviously there could be brand new board members and we'd like to have them be onboarded with staff, giving them a quick orientation and more or less give them information on the project, because it is, for somebody that's new to the CRA, it's a little different than other advisory board. With that, I would suggest that we have more discussion under 13C.
All right, thank you, Ms. Schutt. Board Member Kelly, thoughts?
Yeah, that's fine. I think that makes sense. But to me, my question is, we had a full board, and I know that we're in this transition where we're reviewing, the commission is reviewing the advisory board ordinance, and then there's appointments. But but it's my understanding that whoever was sitting on the board 3 months ago or 4 months ago when we started this process should still be in that position. So why are we in a position now where we don't have quorum? And maybe, do you have an answer?
The first meeting, there wasn't a quorum, even if there were the 7 board members that are sitting there, and they were well aware. The city clerk, I've asked the city clerk to inform them, just to remind them that they stay in their position until the replacement is onboarded. That first meeting, when you assigned it, they just couldn't make it. Again, one board member was sick. She was committed. We had a quorum of 4. We could have moved on, but she was sick that night and she did not want to risk other people's health as well.
Right. But it was my understanding that there was more than 4 members on that board in the last 4 or 5 months. So why are we in this position where we don't have members?
I can't speak for why the original 7 members did not attend. I don't know what their personal situation was. We do all we can to secure quorum and we remind them. In fact, that was the first time we released the packet 2 weeks in advance, knowing the gravity of the assignment. It was at that meeting also was when, again, the board was reconsidering the ordinance for that. So I don't know. But now, since then, there's one other board member who resigned. She's relocating out of this area. So things happen in their personal lives that I
Sure.
don't have information further than that.
Okay, so no, and I can understand and appreciate that. And we know that this is a volunteer board. But of the other ones, were their terms just up or did they officially resign or are they just not showing up to meetings?
So we haven't had any assignments. That was one of the reasons probably, they were very actively participating. 4 board members' terms were up. They were on the commission agenda to be reappointed. And I think it was commission's prerogative to look at it overall for all advisory board. So they were not reappointed. And of the 4 that were termed out, only 1 resubmitted to be appointed. So probably in their heads, that's not because that they were termed out. In fact, 2 of those board members showed up at the meeting. They were still, again, actively engaged. It's just they felt that, if there were new board members coming in, that their opinions should be taken into account. So it has nothing to do with the term transition. It's just their lives are a little busier during this time.
That's fine. I can appreciate that. This is our only time to talk about this and to understand
Yes.
why we're having this problem. So I understand the commission is holding that up and rightfully so. I think there's a time certain date now to discuss that. So hopefully things will start moving again. But that was the reason for my question was, are we having an issue with just attendance overall? Or is this really because people termed out, they didn't feel like they needed to keep coming, and so that's why we're in this predicament. So that was the only reason for my question.
We were reassured. In fact, the city clerk also sent an email reassuring that at before the last meeting. It's just, the past meeting, there was a quorum problem because one of the board member had an accident.
Right.
Things come
Right.
up.
No,
And I just, again, they still actively want to participate as seen. The last 2 board members who were termed out, they still showed up.
Right.
And they still had the meeting.
Right.
It's just, you don't have as many numbers to
Right.
go with. Not 7. Now we only have, we have 5. So we only have, 3
Got it.
actually on the dais.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you, board member. Any other questions or comments for staff regarding the advisory board? Okay. Anything else from staff on this?
It's really the board discretion whether the board wants to go ahead and table this until the meeting after the reappointment takes place, or if there's any other items that you would like to talk about.
So personally, I concur with staff recommendation on this. We want to make sure that the new people have the ability to weigh in as well. This is a very important item determining the scope of the CRA plan. So this is, I want to make sure everybody has a chance to chime in. So would anyone like to make that motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we had a motion from board member Kelly. I heard a second from board member Cruz. Any other items or discussion for this? Otherwise, I'll entertain public comment. Okay, no other further discussion, public comment specifically on this item. Now is the time to approach the podium.
This is for item 12A.
Yes, this is item 12A. Assignment to the CRA board. All right, let me get the timer here. All right, begin when you're ready.
Susan Oyer, Boynton Beach. I've brought this up before with the past commission and I'll bring it up now. I really think you guys should be re-looking at your boards. For example, the city of Delray, you have to have voted in the prior couple elections to qualify to be on a board. And I think you should be looking at some kind of voter qualification. We want active citizens not passive people who just walk in and show up, which gets me to my second point that I really think you should have a 5-year residency to qualify to sit on a board. And you should be able to prove that you've lived here for 5 years, whether it's rental leases or it's electric bills or mortgage payments, whatever. But I having sat on multiple boards over the years, and I've sat on the big ones, and I will tell you, it is appalling and disgusting when we have people walk in who've moved to the city and 2 months later, they're sitting on some of the most powerful boards in our city that control hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars potentially. And they don't even know how to say the names of the streets or that these projects are going into, or they don't know any of the history of any of the projects they're voting on. They've never paid attention to any city commission or any board meetings. They've never read minutes. They've never shown up as a public member prior to coming to these boards and joining them. And they have no historical knowledge. And yet they're spending my tax dollars and yours as well. And I find that just absolutely appalling. There's no reason we don't have a 5-year minimum. I mean, and of course, I believe that for everyone on the dais as well. You should live here for 5 years minimum before you get to run. But I think we should be looking at what Del Rey does. I absolutely love the idea that you have to have been voting in elections. You have to be an active citizen to be on a board. I also think that chairs should be seniority based. The people who've been there the longest know what's going on, know how the boards run, know the history of projects. They're the ones who should be the board chairs. And as far as absences, I was constantly having to report people. Your biggest competitor for the mayor race repeatedly did not show up to any of her board meetings, nor did she ever participate. I think I heard her voice twice in 5 years. And at the end of the day, you should be participating. And I don't see why we're not enforcing the 3 absence rule and not 3 out of an assorted number of meetings like they do for historic preservation, but 3 per year. And that's even, I think that's even excessive. You need to be showing your butt up. Unless you have an illness or a death in the family or a real, true, legitimate reason, you need to be showing up to these boards. These are important. And I think we should be reflecting the importance of these boards by having the bar set higher than, oh, you just showed up and 2 weeks later you get to be on the board and 2 months later you get to be board chair and you know nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other in-person public comment on this item? Now would be the time to approach the podium and make it known. Seeing no one else approaching the podium, is there anybody online who would like to speak on item 12A? Ms. Karfman?
No hands are raised at this time.
All right, public comments are now closed. We had a motion, we had a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it, motion passes. We're now moving on to section 13, old business. The first item here, 13A, is an update. It's the quarterly progress report from Pulte Home Company LLC for the Cottage District Infill Housing Redevelopment Project. I'm going to turn to Ms. Schutt to open the item.
Yes, this is the quarterly report from Pulte Home. Back in February 25th, a purchase and development agreement was executed by both parties, Pulte Home Company and the CRA. The agreement sets forth all the obligations, timeline, and expectations for the delivery of 41 for-sale homes consisting of 21 townhomes and 19 single-family detached units. To date, there are certain milestones that has been performed. There's initial pre-application meeting with the city and CRA staff that occurred on April 27th. Pulte is completing all their due diligence, has completed all due diligence investigations. They also is working on preparing, actually they've submitted for site plan approval with the city already. Members of the Pulte team, Ms. May Carlson should be online. Again, we are looking and have received the form restrictive covenant with Palm Beach County for these units that will be banked for the county's workforce housing ordinance. And again, the next upcoming milestone will be the feasibility period expiring on June 26th. That I'll turn over to Ms. Carlson or any representative that is representing Pulte tonight.
Say that one more time. Who is here from Pulte?
May Carlson or one of her team members.
And are they in person or are they online?
They're virtually online.
All right.
I
Ms. Cur-
believe it's Elliot Goldstein.
Okay, Elliot, Mr. Goldstein.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Golds. Ms. Kerfman, if you could please unmute them.
He's unmuted.
Okay.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for everybody's time. A lot of the information I will be repeating. You had just heard from Twee, but I'll just share the information that I have prepared. My name is Elliot Goldstein. I'm part of Pulte's land team, and I appreciate everybody's time tonight. And I wanted to give you an update on the exciting Cottage District project. This is our first quarterly project report update. We are currently in our 120-day feasibility period, which ends on Monday, June 26th, 2023. We've completed our initial due diligence investigations, including planning, engineering, traffic, phase 1 environmental site assessment, and geotech. We are pursuing approval for this project with our corporate team. The second deposit is due on Monday, July 3rd, 2023. Our next quarterly progress report update is due by Friday, August 25th, 2023. On June 7th, 2023, we submitted our applications for rezoning, master plan, and site plan. Staff confirmed the city will not accept the plat application until after the site plan is approved. Therefore, we're unable to submit the plat within 60 days of our second deposit as required in our purchase and development agreement. On June 12th, 2023, we provided the draft workforce housing covenant for review. Section 21 of the purchase and development agreement requires that the CRA and Pulte agree on the restrictive covenant prior to the end of the feasibility period. This completes my project update. We look forward to continuing to work with you on this rewarding project. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Schutt, one of the things that he mentioned and one of the things we discussed in our pre-meeting was this inability to submit the plat. What is the path forward for that?
We would like to meet with Pulte to see what, if we can also work with the city to see if there's any, if it's a policy issue or if it's a code requirement issue. And if we can't work those issues, we would probably have to go back and amend the purchase and development agreement. Staff is very supportive of that because this is not the developer's fault that we have certain requirements in our development process, but we're going to try to see if we can do it internally first, and if not, we'll have to come and do an amendment to that. I'm not sure if Mr. Goldstein, would have any opinion on that either way, but.
We're open. We're open to working together, and we appreciate, that, and, I'm sure we'll be able to come to a solution that works for us and, everybody. So thank you.
No, thank you for that. And as a matter of timeline, is that something that we could have, if it comes to an amendment of the agreement, is that something that'll be ready by next meeting?
Yes.
Or will it be much more?
Yeah, we could get an
drawn out?
amendment to the board by next meeting.
Okay, excellent. All right. That's it for me. Anything from Board Member Cruz?
No, just thank you for your update.
All right. And let's go to Vice Chair. Did you have any questions or comment, Vice Chair?
No, Chair, good to go.
All right. Board Member Hay?
No.
Board Member Kelly?
No.
All right. This concludes this item. No action is taken. This is only an update. We're going to move on now to 13B. This is consideration of approval of system audit reports and payments release to Seabourn Cove Holdings LLC for the properties known as Seabourn Cove, Phase 1 and Phase 2. All right.
Good evening, Board Chair, Board members. I am Vicki Hill, the CRA Finance Director. What we have is we had the CRA entered into two direct incentive funding agreements for the property known as Seabourn Cove. And what happened was we are prepared to give them what is due. What they had to do was get an audit report that was certified by the building official for the city and prove that they paid their taxes for the property. So what we're asking is you approve for us to give them for Phase 1, $466,528. It's a 50% award factor. So they got the $466,528, and we also received $466,528. We get to keep that. And for Phase 2, also is a 50% award. $227,351, and we get to keep the other half of that. The phase 1 is complete after we give them that, and then phase 2, we have one more next year.
So as a point that we gave the TIF rebate to this development for the green building components, and as such, in order to qualify to get the abatement, to get the money back, they had to perform the system audit on the whole development for that. So just as a clarification for the audience.
All right, thank you, Ms. Hill. Ms. Shutt, any questions from our colleagues here? Board Member Kelly?
No, just think, so on phase 1, this is the last of it. And then on phase 2, there's just 1 year left
Yes.
of reimbursement. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right, Board Member Hay?
Okay.
Vice Chair? Any questions? Let's go to Board Member Cruz.
No questions, thank you.
All right, let's go to public comment on this item. If you'd like to speak specifically on item 13B, now is the time to approach the podium.
Susan Oyer, Boynton Beach. Question, does the garbage problem factor into this at all? Because I know they have a huge garbage problem with trash just all over the place up and down Old Dixie, and code is constantly being called. And anytime you drive down Old Dixie on the backside of this project, there's just trash everywhere. And granted, some of it's probably from other people dropping off, but I wasn't sure if the trash situation is a factor in their ability to get, TIF money back. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll have staff follow up for that question. And is there anybody else that would like to speak on this item in the audience? Seeing none, we're going to move to those online. Ms. Kerfman, anyone with digital hands raised?
No hands are raised at this time.
All right, seeing none, I'm going to close public comments on this item. I'm going to read the motion as written here in the agenda backup just to make sure we're absolutely clear. This is to approve the DIFA payments to Seabourn Cove Holdings LLC for Seabourn Cove in the amount of $466,528 for phase 1 and $227,351 for phase 2. May I have that motion?
So moved.
We have a motion from Board Member Kelly. I heard a second from Board Member Hay. Any further discussion from my colleagues? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those who oppose say no. The ayes have it. Motion passes unanimously. That concludes that item. We're now going to move on to item 13C, discussion and consideration of draft scope to amend the 2016 Community Redevelopment Plan. This was previously tabled, so if we would like to have this discussion, I will entertain a motion to remove from the table.
So moved.
We have a motion to remove this item from the table. Is there a second? All right, I hear no second from this motion, and with that, the motion, well, do people still say die?
Yes.
Second,
Yes.
second,
Motion
second,
does not pass or motion dies for the lack of a second.
Second.
All right.
second.
Oh. All right. I heard. Okay. Well, I'll take the second because of technical problems. All those in favor of removing this item from the table, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Was that an aye? Okay. All those opposed, say no. All right, the ayes have it. This item has now been removed from the table. Let's have this discussion. Let's begin with Executive Director. And if I'm not mistaken, Council, was this the item you wanted to add on? Okay, so Ms. Shutt, take it away.
Yes, so for the purpose of the audience, this is just to look at the scope of work to hire a consultant to do an amendment to the CRA plan. It's been since 2016 since the plan has been adopted and reviewed. There's several development practices. There's also some legislation that has occurred, and it's probably time to just update it for the benefit of the community. So with this process, we anticipated approximately a year to do with public input and engagement along the way. There is included in the agenda item attachment number 3, which is a scope of work that has a different task involved. that will be advertised as part of the request for proposal for the consultant. This scope of work has been circulated to all city departments in April. We are still receiving some input from departments to take a look at this and how it could benefit in terms of joint funded projects and things that the CRA can do within its statutory limitations. The board had asked for SCRAB to weigh in on this, and that's why it's been postponed since beginning of May. With this also is an ask or request for staff to have the consultant look at the boundary changes, whether it's to enlarge the CRA area or decrease the CRA area. There was some recent discussion at City Commission about such item, and the city attorney had recommended that there may be a joint session between the CRA board and the commission to really fully understand the ramification of this. If the board chooses, the board can give us direction on what to proceed on this, or have a joint meeting while you're seeking CRAB input. That's just, our recommendation. Council can weigh in on some of the legal aspects of the joint meeting and the joint decisions.
All right, thank you. Let's hear from council. If this board were to proceed to a joint meeting, if you could weigh in on the legal aspects.
Sure. So because you all, in the persons that you are, sit as both the city council, the city commission and the CRA board, sometimes it's a little difficult to separate the discussions that are relevant only to the city versus those that are relevant only to the CRA. So for example, the city has the power to determine who makes up the board of the CRA, and some of the things that are within the city's sole purview, including the boundaries of the CRA, would be appropriate to discuss as part of this plan. So the way to handle that so that you don't have to continually bifurcate your discussion and try to pick up where you left off between the two boards week to week is to simply have a joint meeting where you all can sit with both of your staffs. We simply notice it as a meeting of both the city and the CRA. That'll entitle you to have a full discussion. If it's in that workshop setting, you would not be making any decisions. So you would just be in an information gathering and discussion phase, and then you would go back to your appropriate board or commission to make the appropriate motions. But it's just for your convenience to allow you to have the full benefit of both of your staffs for discussing the items that are, overlap in your Venn diagram of duties there.
All right, thank you. My colleagues, would you like to weigh in on the discussion? Are you in favor of moving forward with a joint workshop to discuss potential changes to the boundaries or not? Let's go with Board Member Kelly, and then we'll go around. I'll make sure to get you, Vice Chair.
I like the idea of having a joint meeting. It's right now is a matter of when, because we just discussed during the advisory board that we were tabling that until everything gets worked out and there's more members that are a part of it. So I am all for a joint meeting to discuss, what we do as far as amending the plan. For me, it's just a matter of timing. We don't have a time certain yet of when we can set that. So, and then I guess to staff, would we just do it in place of like a CRA meeting that month? Or do we do a whole separate?
Realizing you'll be looking at budgets for both boards, I just, again, this is important, but I don't know if you're going to be able to squeeze in another meeting in between your budget meeting for both board and the CRA meeting. It's really your discretion. We're here to help do whatever is necessary, but your time, again, is going to be taken up with a lot more meetings. So I would recommend that, it's really tough because if you replace it, then you're just bumping it down to the next month, right? So between now and September, you're probably your schedule is going to be with your strategic planning meeting. We're at your disposal, but realizing you're going to have to bump it past your budget adoption. So I won't know until each board have done at least their first budget meeting to see how much work we have to do.
All right. It's always daunting. We've got so many things going on simultaneously. Just to chime in briefly, board member, I don't really want to replace a meeting only because I don't want things to avalanche. and make that other meeting even longer. But at the same time, I know we've got so many other things going on. I do think it is more expedient and more efficient to just do a joint workshop. Can we just have administrative staff, reach out and coordinate the actual scheduling at another time?
And I know on the July meeting, you're going to have back-to-back budget meeting for the city on the Monday, and you're going to have a meeting right before the CRA board meeting. And so July, I would not recommend doing a joint meeting before the CRA. Maybe you may look at the joint meeting before a city commission meeting, but again, that's going to be a lot. So I
So
can reach
not
out.
July, that's the only thing that's clear.
That's right. So what we can do is we can talk to city staff, city management staff, and city clerk to see what would be agreeable, and we can follow up with each of your schedule. If you have an idea of, a time in which you do not have any other commitments, this maybe the end of July, because once again, you've got the holiday coming up, in a week and a half or so, 4th of July. Then you have your CRE and your budget workshop. So you're looking at the end of July as being a possibility, the last Tuesday or maybe on a weekend. So I don't, I'll just have to talk to staff, city
All right.
staff.
Board member, go ahead.
So Twee, are you saying that, because I'm going back to our conversation just a little bit ago about advisory board, are you saying that we could and should have this workshop even before the advisory board is sat? Because it's my understanding that the commission is going to talk about advisory board stuff at the July 18th meeting.
Right.
So then we're not looking to likely appoint more members until August.
Right.
And so so while we're here,
So you could choose to have this meeting after you have the comments from the CRAB board meeting. Then it will take you to the August, August or September, or you can even choose to have this after the budget adoption in October. There isn't, like I said, we are operating in conformance with statutes as we speak daily. So to have this discussion is really just to provide you with more information, what you can and cannot do with the boundaries of the CRA. Shrinking it, what the ramification, enlarging it, what's the ramification. Either way, there still has to be a necessity of finding when you increase it for the additional area, and coordination with the county for the additional land. If you're shrinking it, it's not as onerous on the county, because they'll just take their money and use it for some other needs in the county. But that needs to have a full discussion. What council is saying is, rather than going from month to month, having city manager or myself report back where we left off the last month, it's better just to have a meeting some point in your schedule that would allow it.
right, no, I totally agree with that. I'm totally on board. I just wanted to have clarification from you because we were talking about July, but then the advisory board is not going to have a chance to weigh in. So I'm just bringing this up even more for my colleagues to make a decision on, are we okay with putting this off until September, or do we do it and move on and have the conversation without having the advisory board input or a full advisory board, new advisory board input?
So board member, if I could just respond to that. Personally, I'm okay with having this joint workshop even before the advisory board, only because we're still going to get their input and no final decision is being made. So one way or another, we're going to hear everything before a final call is made. So
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And even so, inviting the advisory board members to even possibly be a part of that workshop,
Yeah.
the ones that did have input and the ones, to get that feedback as well, since they did have input and they did conduct a meeting. So those are my kind of points on that.
Thank you. Board member Hay, any questions or thoughts or concerns, or where do you stand?
My thoughts are, right now we at, 1,600 acres for the CRA. I really don't see the need for bothering with the size of the CRA district at this point. We're getting close to sunset. I don't know whether we're going to decide to increase it or decrease it. If we decrease it, we run the risk of losing county funding, which I don't even want to think about. So I'm not motivated here to touch it at all. And so I'm just wondering what's the great advantage here? When does the CRA sunset?
In 2044, so approximately 20 more years.
2044. And can you tell me at this point, or do we know what is the advantage of increasing it? I think I know about decreasing it, but what about increasing it? I mean, you cover more territory, which is obvious, but what's the real gain here?
So as part of again, the ability for the CRA to do its work is to really help out on infrastructure's needs, to make sure that there's obsolete infrastructure can be upgraded in preparation for redevelopment. One of the ideas is that if there's drainage, water, sewer, utility type of projects that crosses CRA boundaries, that again, that we can help co-fund some of those projects for the city. That's really one of the needs that you would see that. And one of the examples that given previously is along the Seacrest Boulevard corridor. Our district ends north of Southeast 2nd Avenue. I don't know, Vicki, if you can go to our CRA. I think one of the attachment has a CRA plan if you can't get to the. So there are, it zigzag along there. The CRA boundary also ends east of the FEC Railroad on Woolbright. So again, that corridor, if you want to redevelop the corridor, it stops. CRA cannot spend funding beyond the CRA boundary. So there are certain areas that are contiguous to the existing boundary that makes sense to do that, but we need to show that that meets the requirements for slum and blight, and the necessity finding needs to be there. So that's part of the task for the consultant.
But would we necessarily receive increased funding?
If we can prove that there is, slum and blighted that needs to be addressed, yes, the boundary, if increased, we would have to go to the county, of course, to make sure that they approve of that, because their tax dollars will go, 95% of their tax dollars will also go to the CRA area.
Here's where I am right now. I would like to have more input. I'd like to hear the CRA board input, as well as the public input on this. I'll be in favor of having the workshop, since no decisions would be made there. We're just discussing it.
And getting more info.
But it would make,
And getting more info.
And getting more info. It would take it's going to take a real good argument for me to change my position at this point, but I'm open-minded.
All right. Thank you, Board Member Hay. I'm actually right there with you. I want to know what the arguments are, and it's going to take a lot to make me change my mind, but we'll see. Vice Chair Turkin, questions, comments?
No, we don't even have a CRA board right now. We can't make quorum. So I don't want to kick the can down the road. We don't know who's going to sit on this board. So I'm okay with expediting this joint workshop. I know we have July 13th on the books for our city budget. Tentatively, if we don't make, if we don't get done in one day, I'm okay with just replacing that if possible. And then if that doesn't work out, I'm flexible, but I don't want to kick the can down the road, because we don't even have certainty on who's going to apply to this CRA board, if we're going to continue to have quorum. I just think there's too much uncertainty to rely on input from a board for a decision this large.
All right. Thank you. And if I understood you correctly, Vice Chair, you're basically saying, let's move forward. We'll get the input whenever we get it.
Yes.
But you don't want to hold it up because of that.
Correct.
Okay, wonderful. Board Member Cruz, your thoughts?
I'm open,
You're open to having the joint workshop?
I am.
All right. And is everybody good with letting staff handle, the administrative staff handle this exact scheduling?
Yes.
I'm, all right, I heard one yes. I'm the second yes. They can handle my scheduling. Board Member Kelly's good, and they'll take care of the scheduling for us. Board Member, hey, go ahead.
At what point would you start considering the earliest possible date? Do you have any idea what, would it be in September area for time frame maybe? Or later, August?
I would think September would be safer because you would have at least all your budget, at least on the third hearing of all the, or the adoption of your budget. At least the CRA budget gets adopted at the September meeting anyway. So you would have input in July and August, likewise with the city. So it'd be a little easier, to have it in September than July and August.
All right, is that good with everyone?
That gives us a chance to bring it back to you after we talk to city management staff and the clerk at the next meeting for you all to select. You have a joint meeting.
All right, sounds good. For council, I think that's sufficient. You have general direction.
Yeah, we have consensus and direction to staff. That's all you need.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Shutt, I did have in my notes here, were we still going to have Ms. Cobb speak on this? Do we know?
I don't see her in the member of the audience.
Do we have her online? That was a no from Ms. Kerfman. All right, so if there's nothing else, this item is concluded. Let's move on to 13D, discussion and consideration of the options for the CRA-owned property located at 41411 East Boynton Beach Boulevard.
This will be handled by our Assistant Director, Mr. Tim
Okay.
Tack.
Good evening, board.
Good evening. Take it away, Tim.
On August 9th, 2022, the CRA board approved the motion to publish an RFP to qualified parties to purchase the CRA-owned parcels located at 41411 East Boynton Beach Boulevard to construct a freestanding building which the United States Postal Service will lease on a long-term basis. The construction would include 3,474 square feet of retail post office with 22 parking spaces. On May 9th, 2023, our last board meeting, the CRA board approved a motion to reject all bids and have staff bring back all options available for development of the site. Some of those typical options include an invitation to bid, or an ITB. It is often considered the least flexible procurement option, and it is used when the agency can develop precise specifications or scope of work. Price is the controlling factor in an ITB, and an award is made to the lowest responsible bidder. However, this option, we've been advised, or staff's been advised by our legal, that an ITB for vertical construction of a commercial space with a government entity tenant is not appropriate for community redevelopment agencies without a private partnership, so therefore not an option. Another option which we utilized was the RFP, or the request for proposals. An RFP is used when it is not practical or possible for the agency to use an ITB. An RFP must include all the relevant specifications, including evaluation criteria to be used in determining the acceptability of the proposals received. While a contract resulting from an ITB is awarded based solely on price, the RFP, the evaluators may consider technical excellence as well as costs, which you would be looking at technical expertise, financial capability, etc. Another option, the invitation to negotiate, or the ITN. An ITN is appropriate when an agency determines that neither the ITB or the RFP will result in the best value to the agency. The main difference between an RFP or an ITN is that the ITN is used when the agency determines that negotiations with one or more vendors may be necessary in the order for the agency to receive the best value. Also, another option, the letter of interest, or an LOI or an LOI is an informal submittal from proposers for the purchase, sale, or lease of real estate parcel. It identifies the proposer's interest in working with the agency on a particular project. Proposers provide minimum submission requirements for the board's consideration in accordance with our LOI policy, which is listed for you there. Also, another option would be the public-private partnership. The public-private partnerships, often referred to as P3s, may be advertised or received without advertising or solicitation in this case. Considered by the agency for development of public facility or infrastructure that is used or will be used by public at large or in support of an accepted public purpose or activity in addition to the private portion of that. So the options before are for your discussion and consideration, and let the staff know how you would like to proceed.
Thank you, Tim. If any other member of staff would like to chime in or counsel on this item. All right, let's go to the board members. Let's begin with Board Member Kelly.
Thank you, Chair. My feeling is that this is a project that I know we talked about potentially trying to see if it was something that we could do on our own. My feeling is it's my understanding from talking to Twee, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we've even reached out to the post office to find out if they have anyone who is interested in kind of going the LOI route, I guess, and kind of soliciting us to do this project. Is that, and they don't have anyone, is that my understanding?
They have plenty of contractors that's built these structures for the post office they can draw on. They don't have a development partner in this region that they would know. One of the thoughts that we had said to the board, we could issue an RFP out like Tim says, but we would like to have the cast a net in a broader sense. So not just advertise in a local newspaper and just get through the FRA or through our counterparts in Florida. We may go to one of the bid bank or clearinghouses like Periscope, Demand Star, where it's publicly, openly available to all their membership, which includes all entities outside of Florida. So that's another way to do it, to reach out to more than just who the post office know, who we know. We may get several viable parties. We could also issue it where, you know, again, any of the previous proposers who have come in can sharpen their proposal as well, to see if they can get another chance at it. And other interested parties who have approached staff before, but because we were in that cone of silence and we weren't entertaining any other proposal. So that's another choice for everybody who's able to put another vote in or another proposal in. We can also entertain between now and the time the issue a public advertisement for the RFP. The board can also entertain LOIs, letters of intent. If those interested parties that reach out to us, we have made them aware that these options are available now that the board has rejected the 2 previous submissions. So there's other ways to do that. We just don't want to go out with the same thing and give you the same results.
Right, and I guess I didn't realize, so when we did the initial RFP, it was localized. We didn't branch it, like I didn't realize you could do it different ways where it could be open to.
Well, it would, we did it as we accepted the LOI from the USPS to do an RFP.
Right.
So typically we do it on a normal, we would do the advertisement in the public newspaper, greatest circulation, published posts. We also, your staff, have gone out to put it into other areas that we know within the region, obviously. But again, we only got 2 that's there. Right. There's limited people who would want to build and then have to be the landlord, or will be the landlord to a federal entity. So that's the one thing. And also, again, you know, we can always try. We can always sharpen and really target the right population if we need to. Like I said, now maybe it's just, it wasn't long enough. You know, we advertised for a month and a half during the holidays. Maybe that may have an effect on that. Because we received everything in December, if you remember. Yeah. And again, one of the 2 proposer had done, you know, had met with us to go over what was it that they could do better. You know, so again, they may be resubmitting if there's an opportunity that avails itself. Or the board can just wait for a little bit. We'll bring back, if you'd like, because we have to revise the timeline, for the deadline, we will bring back the revised RFP to you at the next meeting. So we don't have to reissue it now. You can have us bring it back to make sure that you have everything you needed on there.
Board member, if I may just piggyback on just that thought before it goes away. When you say modify the RFP, what exactly would you be modifying, and then we can issue it later?
We could, again, our policy is to have the proposal tell us what they need from us in terms of funding and assistance for funding gaps. We could actually offer what we can, help out on, either infrastructure or, any of the site work. We can actually detail that out. We can also, again, like I said, work with the timeline to make sure that it's the most favorable time to issue it out. Maybe give it a longer time for responses, because now we're reaching to a broader population outside of Florida. So there may be a lot more question and answer, requests for information. So we can certainly do that. But again, now that we know what the post office is really looking for, data to support that, we can do a pre-submission meeting if it's needed. And not a mandatory, but maybe a voluntary pre-submission meeting to go over the RFP.
I like that idea, where we do have that pre-submission meeting prior to submitting for an RFP. And the RFP is my preferred route. It's a process I trust. I'm comfortable with it. We've done it many times. I just want to make sure that we don't repeat the mistakes of the past, which is for people to not be communicating and not be clear about what it is that the USPS requires, right? That is the whole point of this, so we can move them to this location. So whatever happened, hopefully we're past that, and please incorporate that into the RFP if that is the desire of this board. But let's hear from everybody. Board member Kelly, was there anything else you wanted to add?
No, that's, thank you, Chair. That was kind of the route that I was thinking, was to go out to an RFP again, now that we have a little bit more information as far as what the post office wants. And it's my understanding from talking to staff that there's been communication after with one of the proposers, and they may come and reach out, after, that process. So, that was my input on that and the route that I was comfortable with.
And thank you for that, board member. Council, could you just remind us, when would the cone of silence take effect if this is the route that we take?
Apologies, turned it off instead of on. Basically from when the RFP goes out to when you make your decision.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And I need to correct, I'm sorry.
There's under Florida Public Records Law, there is if for some reason they were to be more than 30 days after the submittals were received, before you were to discuss it after 30 days, those normally protected from public records would expire 30 days after opening. So depending on when your meeting was set, there could be a point in time where they're available to the public, but they have not come before you. But assumingly you would have a meeting within the 30 days, at which point you would discuss them.
I just want to add, Tim did remind that we did have a pre-submission meeting as part of the other RFP before, but maybe with a larger, advertisement area or geographic area, we may have more. So.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Board member Hay, your thoughts on this?
I agree with what you're saying, Chair. I lean toward the RFP because it's an opportunity to get all of the relevant specifications, funding being a major item there. And I'm also comfortable with using and evaluating that. So my position right now is to go with the RFP with that you would suggest.
Pre-submission meeting.
Pre-commission meeting.
Right, and then we're going to expand this advertisement to a wider range so we get more people to submit.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, board member Hay. Let's turn now to Vice Chair Turkin. Questions, comments?
Yeah, I'm okay with what seems to be the consensus. Twee, what was your recommendation? What was staff's recommendation?
We really would, it's really your discretion because we can, either one of these, we can do much better. Number one was out of, that's not an option because we need to have a development partner with this. So it leaves you with the RFP. We've had positive results with an RFP and an LOI, so I can't really say which one I would prefer. We're here to do whatever your wish would be, given that, we have to get more detailed and more, I guess, we just have to get the word out better, I guess, to other folks and build interest with that. So.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything else, Chair. I'm kind of same page with my colleagues.
All right, thank you, Vice Chair. Board Member Cruz.
I support going in with the RFP and expanding our base to get more input from different opportunities.
All right, thank you. So before we take a formal motion on this item, let's go ahead and hear from the public. If you would like to speak specifically on this item, which is item 13D on the agenda, now would be the time to approach the podium. And as always, after those in person, we'll go to those online. All right. Seeing no one approach the podium, we're going to go to those online. Ms. Kerfman, digital hands raised. Are there any?
No hands are raised.
All right, public comments on this item is now closed. Now, hearing from all of you that from our discussion, it looks like we are going towards option one, which is to authorize the CRA staff to re-advertise the RFP RFQ, utilizing government solicitation tools with wider reach and accept new proposals. All right, are there any questions on that? May I have a motion for that item?
So moved.
Second.
All right, I heard a motion from Board Member Cruz. Who made the second? Board Member Kelly. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those who oppose say no. The ayes have it. Motion passes unanimously. All right, thank you so much. That concludes that item. We are now moving to item 13E, project update on the Bride of Christ Daycare Center at Northeast 10th Avenue. This item was previously tabled, so is there a motion to remove this item from the
Motion
table?
to remove from
From
table.
the table. Thank you, Board Member Hay. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, the second came from Board Member Kelly. All those in favor of removing this item from the table say aye. Aye. All those who oppose say no. The ayes have it. Motion passes. Item has been removed. Ms. Shutt, if you could please introduce item 13E.
Yes, just as a quick recap, the board has sold this property to the Bride of Christ back in 2019. There was a requirement under the purchase and sale agreement to have this project commence construction by January 16, 2023. That is, the board has given a previous one-year extension to that. The church failed to commence construction, but they are in the process of the site plan approval through the city. It's anticipated the site plan approval process will end approximately at the latest in July, and it'll go to commission with the 2 meetings and be done with that process in September. The board chose to stay the enforcement of the reversionary interest until the applicant or the Bride of Christ, the church, can show to us, that proceeding in good faith and effort. At the last board meeting, the board tabled it to give staff a chance to look at the condition of the reversionary interest, which says that if the church does not perform and fail to commence development at the next milestone, then the CRA can get the land back for the price in which it was offered at $49,000, and also pay any development cost. Staff has since today, as late as today, received a letter or an email from Mr. Comfort, representative from the church, that says that he is agreeable to, in return for the additional time extension to March 1st, 2024, that he will agree to amend the contract to take out any obligations for the city to, or the CRA to pay back any development costs, including soft and hard costs. So we are agreeable with that. We do want to ask the board also to put in to make sure that there is financing available for this project by November, because really, you know, even if they have all the process going through the city, we really want to make sure that they construct this project because the daycare is needed in this area, as they said, and we want to make sure that they succeed. So this will help them along. If that is something the board would like, the board can instruct staff and legal counsel to draft a contract amendment for the church to review and for staff to, you know, to present to and authorize the chair to execute.
All right, thank you, Ms. Shutt. I just want to emphasize one item, and I apologize if you already did it, but I just want to do it again. They agreed to the amendment that we are no longer on the hook for these additional expenses if and only if they do not meet the deadline. Is that correct? Did I understand that correctly?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right.
So
Just making sure.
We get
right?
the land back for what we sold, what we sold to them, but we are not obligated to pay any soft cost design fees, any improvements onto the property.
If they
at all.
don't make it to, what day was that? January 16, 2024. All right. So,
Actually, they're asking for March 1st, 2024.
okay, wait
On
one
first?
second, because it does not match.
Right, we had our timeline is based on when that was due. They're requesting till March 1st, according to his email correspondence to staff. So he's asking for an extra 2 months,
March 1st.
2024.
All right, let me just amend this 1 second. All right, let's begin on my right this time. Board member Cruz, if you have any questions or comment for staff.
For the sake of potentially not paying any improvement costs, if this were to go downhill, I would be in favor of approving the amendment to the purchase agreement to potentially provide an extension, but I don't know if I agree up until March. I think the longer we wait, the worse. Are they, you know, are they not in favor if the board agrees with the original date of January 2024? What would happen?
What was the reason for the difference again? Why do we go from January to March?
Well, we had always recommended till January 16th. They may have countered in their email. I haven't had a chance to look at his latest email. I know council has
Well,
been
let's
able
hear
to
from
look
council.
I was going to say, no, so in the back and forth and discussions with staff and looking at the city timelines, March 1st was, we calculated, and I don't remember the math off the top of my head, so forgive me, but from submittal of certain documents to likely approval date to the time that would likely take them to actually get something out of the ground. And so that was sort of where we landed after those final discussions. We did convey that date to them, along with the requirement that they provide a status update, including a status of financing at the November meeting, in addition to the other changes that we've talked about. So essentially that's where the negotiations landed.
Yeah. So if you're looking at September, getting the zoning approval from City Commission, I would strongly recommend at least November to get a status update for the financing. The financing is key. Not just a letter of commitment, but actually proceeding to get financing and either closing on the loan or some substantial paperwork that shows that they have financing in place. And then again, once that's done, they should be proceeding with building permits, and maybe they need to have that extra time to revise their building permit plans. That would be from November to March. So they're looking at about 5 or so months with the holidays. You know, I'm just thinking, yeah.
All right, board member Cruz, any follow up to that?
I just want to hear what the rest of the board thinks, but I mean, I just really would like to prevent us having to pay any fees or any improvements to the property, because it could, I mean, if you think about it, it could potentially accumulate, we don't know. So that's kind of where I was thinking, just to be on the safe side. But let's see what the rest of the board thinks.
All right, thank you, board member. Vice Chair Turkin, your thoughts on this item?
Yeah, I almost completely piggyback what Board Member Cruz is saying. I'm okay with an extension in exchange for not having to cover these fees. Just so I understand correctly, you're proposing next March 24, Tweet?
March 1st, 2024. So basically in his email, I'm reading it briefly. They will not meet the January 16th construction commencement deadline. And again, they're saying that the board meeting will be in the beginning of February, which means they would have to request any kind of extension on December 27th. So they're looking to just have, not to have to come back to the board repeatedly to ask for extension. They only gives them one more month because March 1st, which means they have to start commencing construction in February. So that's really all they're asking for. It's not really the end of March, the beginning of March. And staff is fine with it as long as there is some kind of reporting in November as to the status of their financing.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of rest my comments there and see what everyone else thinks. I don't want to keep extending and extending, and I definitely understand the perception that they have and having to come back. So yeah, that's my position. I'm not sure if I agree to, extending to March, but everything else, I would be okay with.
All right, thank you, Vice Chair. Let's go to Board Member Hay.
Well, I'm glad to hear what I'm hearing. I've been having some thoughts about this because it's church and all this good stuff they're going to do. But, and I certainly don't want us to pay any kind of construction costs. But my thing is this, I think I heard Tweet said that at least I'm going to say it again, we have some kind of timeline as far as completing certain portions of this project. And if they don't do their due diligence, then we proceed in to revert them. Since we don't have to pay construction costs, that's my position right now. They have not been doing what they said they were going to do. They have not shown the due diligence I would have wanted to see. And because of that, the only reason I didn't bring this up about closing before, because we shouldn't be paying for their delay. Okay, so at this point, my position is to proceed with the March 2024 and have some type of schedule timeline for them to complete certain components along this process. And if they don't, then we start negotiation in the opposite direction.
All right, thank you, Board Member. Anything else?
That's it.
All right, Board Member Kelly.
Twee, can I ask one quick question? So, or even Catherine, the proposed November date, why wait even so after P&D and commission, potentially worst case scenario, that's September, will it take till November for them to secure financing, or to have, is that why the November date? Is that typical that?
Well, depending on the project and the relationship with the bank. Typically, banks would lend once you close on it, you have your site plan approval, you have all the necessary regulatory permits in order. They've submitted for building permits already, but it was rejected because they didn't have the site plan. So hopefully, again, with some changes that needs to occur on the site plan to match the building permit plans, we're hoping we're giving that 1 month grace period after they get through commission the second reading for the use approval. and the master plan, the site plan approval. We're hoping that they would hurry up and tweak and get everything in order. And they should be working with the bank already. Mr. Comfort has already stated at the last meeting that they have, been working with the bank. So, again, we're hoping by November 14th, which is the board meeting, you can, again, your motion could be to extend this to March 1st, 2024. However, with that requirement for to have financing in place by November 14th, meaning in place, not just a letter that says that we are willing to loan you. So that would be a caveat in there. The board has done that in the past with this application, where the board gave them a year extension to 2023, but had a July reporting status report from the applicant to come. You've done that in the past, so it's not something unusual.
Yeah, no, I'm comfortable with making sure that we have those requirements as far as financing, I think. And I remember him mentioning that they had been talking to a bank, so I would assume that they've already have almost a conditional loan letter in place. But I haven't seen that in any of our backups. I don't think we've ever received a copy of that. So, but I think that, we have to stress that this, we need a daycare, and we can't just keep waiting also for this project. So there has to be some major headway for us to continue to, to put this off. It's something that's important. So I'm comfortable with, having that November deadline. Your financing has to be in place because we need to move on. Either it's happening or it's not happening. If you can't get financing by November, then we have to look at this. So that's kind of my thought on that. I think the March deadline, it's a couple weeks, so that's not even as concerning as, that November deadline. To know that they have financing is, I think, key to this project, and knowing that, that they truly are in this to do what they started out to do in 2019. So those are my thoughts. And like I said, I'm comfortable with what staff has recommended in the proposals. But that November date is, I'm looking to that date to know whether this is going to happen or not. So thank you.
All right, thank you, board member. I'm going to return back to board member Cruz and then vice chair. I know that you wanted to, hear from everybody else first, or we could have public comments first, and you can add your thoughts then. It's up to you. All right, 1 second. Executive Director, go ahead.
We have members of the church here from Bride of Christ, if you'd want to, have any input from them.
I was going to do public comments next.
Oh, I just didn't know if they wanted to speak on, but that's okay. That's fine.
Yeah, well, all right. Well, they'll have that option, right?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So board member Cruz and vice chair, do you want to wait until public comments, or do you want to chime in now? Public comments? All right. So let's open this item for public comments. If you would like to speak specifically on item 13E, now would be the time to approach the podium. All right, I see one person. And again, after those in person, we'll go to those online. Please state your name for the record, as always.
Good. My name is Claude Maxine. Yes, when you're talking about the financing, we will get financing before March. We're working with the Valley Bank, and they will prove their project for us.
From the Bride of Christ Church, and just for clarification, that financing has to occur before November 14th, by November 14th.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Not March.
Just need a approved plan for the bank to be approved the project. Thank you.
I also was told the designers online if there's any questions for their designer, their professional consultant.
Malibu is online.
Could you just be closer to the microphone? We just can't hear you very well.
The Kai Malibu is online to answer any call regarding the blueprint.
Their engineer Kyle.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Good evening.
Good evening. Could we make them a little bit louder?
I can also speak up. Just appreciate the extension, and there's a lot of intricacies with this lot and combining it with the church that I don't need to get into, but we have had some offline meetings with planning and zoning, and we are working through one last kind of question on the fire department side. But I'm confident that we're going to keep this thing moving, and now that we are agreeing to no reimbursement of the soft costs, we feel certainly a moral obligation to get this project done. So if we weren't all aboard before and fully committed, we're certainly 110% now.
Could you state your last name for the record?
We didn't catch it very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Kyle. My last name is Mayu. Kyle Mayu.
What's the last name again? It starts with Malaxon.
It's a tough one. It's Mayu.
How about the first name?
Kyle.
Kyle.
All right. We'll definitely have somebody reach out.
Yeah.
Anything else from staff or from the Bride of Christ representative? Anything else?
Yes. I know you don't have a crystal ball, Clyde or Kyle, but do you see anything that just might hold you up? Are you where you would like to be at this point in time?
So the last hurdle that we're working on is with the fire department in regards to fire truck access, given the size of the two lots that are south of the church. So we had a phone call with them today. We're just kind of waiting for them to take a look at a plan we sent to them via email to confirm that what we're proposing is good. And then we can re-engage our landscape architect to address the landscape comments, and we should be resubmitting the site plan for approval.
Has FD been a problem for you?
I'm sorry. Oh, fire department. They've been great to work with, if that's what you're asking, but it's just the size of the lot doesn't allow for the required fire truck turn radius. The radius is, as stated in the comments, is 55 feet, and the lot itself, the two parcels combined, are only 50 feet. So that's the last thing we're working through.
Okay. I just bring that up because if there's anything that we can do to help you, assist you within the limits, we certainly would be happy to do that, because I really want you guys to be a success with the church and the daycare. But I just need you to do your part.
Absolutely, I appreciate that. Yeah, if we have any further questions that we feel aren't getting resolved or might need some special attention, we'll certainly reach out.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Before you leave, is there anything else from my colleagues while they're available? All right, seeing none, thank you so much. All right, now to the general public for this item. If you'd like to speak specifically in this item, now is the time to approach the podium. Seeing no one approaching the podium, is there anybody with their digital hands raised, Ms. Kerfman?
No hands are raised at this time, but I do need Mr. Turkin. Can you please log out and log back in, because I'm not being able to add you back in as a panelist.
All right.
Yeah, Board Member Turkin, if you could log back out and log back in.
If he
Because
doesn't,
it's showing he's offline right now.
okay, I think somebody should just send him a text message. That's probably the
I
easier.
will. I'm doing that.
Thank
right
you,
now.
Ms. Shutt. All right, thank you, Ms. Kerfman. Public comments on this item is now closed. Just to be absolutely clear, what I'm hearing from the board is that we're okay with the March 1st deadline. And I also heard that we're going to stick with this November requirement to make sure that they have financing in place. So that's one of those conditions of this motion. Is that correct? Board member Kelly, then let's do board member Hay next.
Yeah, and this is just to staff that, please reach out to the attorney and make sure that he is aware. I mean, I know that there's agreements and stuff, but that November date that's what I am focused on and honed in on as to whether or not this is happening. So I want to make sure that staff is on top of that, please.
Thank you for that, board member, because I'm 100% with you. Board member Hay?
I'm just going to say, just make sure staff reaches out to the Bride of Christ and make sure they agree with the timeline that I'm asking for. And we all in agreement there. Can you do that?
Yes, of course. And the date will be November 14th is the November CRA
Okay.
board meeting.
That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry, board member Cruz, go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I was going to ask council if you could properly read this motion, because I know several
I was gonna
things.
try, if I can try.
I'm gonna have to ask council
Okay.
on this one, board member, only
Okay.
because she made a request earlier. There's some technical changes. Was this the one?
This is not the one, but
Still,
I'm
I
happy
still
to
keep
do
getting
it.
the item wrong. Okay, not this one. Okay, board member Cruz, it is your take.
I'm gonna attempt it. Okay, so
Okay,
I want to make a motion to approve a contract amendment to the purchase and sale agreement with Bride of Christ Tabernacle Church to provide a time extension to March 1st,
Yep.
2024, to commence development of the 40-child daycare facility, and to delete the obligation for the CRA to reimburse the Bride of Christ Church for the improvement costs and development expenses should the Bride of Christ fail to meet the March 1st, 2024 deadline. In addition to that, they must come to the CRA meeting on November 14th and prove that they have financing. And if they fail to meet the March 1st, 2024 deadline, and also authorize the board chair to execute subject to final legal review. Did I miss anything?
I heard subject to final legal review, which is the best part.
Okay.
The disclaimer.
I'll second that.
Excellent.
All right.
Very good.
All right. She's on fire.
I'll second.
All right, so we had a motion from board member Cruz. We had a second from board member Hayes. Is there any further discussion from my colleagues? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The motion passes unanimously. Okay, that concludes that. We're moving on to 14A, discussion and consideration of purchase and sale agreement for 413 West Point Beach Boulevard. Council, is this the one you're referring to now? Did I finally get it right? Okay, it is this item. All right, Ms. Shutt, if you could introduce the item.
At first, I just want to make sure Mr. Turkin, board member Turkin, is on.
Yes, Ms. Griffin, what's the status on that? Are we still trying to get him back on?
Yeah, it's saying that he's offline, which does not allow me to move him back up as an organizer. Board member Turkin, are you logging in as your organizer list?
He says that it keeps adding him as an attendee, not a panelist.
All right, let me.
So they're working on it. Yeah. Okay, we're going to work on that, Tom. Yeah. He's just asking for an invitation for a panelist. So
I'm going to resend his invitation.
All right, bear with us, folks, while we take care of some technical difficulties. Ms. Kerfman, is this a quick fix or is this going to take a while? Do we need to recess for this? Ms. Kerfman,
I just sent him the invitation again.
Okay.
So I'm going to dismiss him and hopefully he can log back in.
Okay, let's give it a shot. And if it's more cumbersome, then we might have to recess. Yeah, I'm good. In the meantime, I'll say it's only 7:34 and we're close to being done, which is,
Don't
I don't know
say
what,
that.
what happened. Oh, don't say, I might jinx it. All right, I take it back from the universe.
Take it back. Take it back. I don't know. I don't know.
How long you guys want to wait?
30 more seconds.
30 more seconds and then don't make a motion to recess for 5 minutes or something?
No.
No? You're,
Board Member Turkin, if
Fine.
you need to be on either a
hold on,
laptop
I'm saying,
or
how
a
long are you willing to
computer
wait?
in order to be an organizer, not a phone.
Talk with you.
Right. I spoke too soon.
Board Member Turkin says his laptop crashed, so he has to do it. So just unmute him and he'll do it as an attendee, but for the chair to move on with the next one. He'll be attending, but he can't. He'll just have to unmute and speak
All right.
as a panelist,
Yeah.
but as an
All right.
attendee.
Ms. Kerfman, let me know when he's logged back on at least.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect, thank you.
Vice Chair, again, if you want me to recognize you, just feel free to unmute yourself and chime in, okay?
Will do, thank you, Chair. Thank you, guys,
Thank you.
sorry.
All right, you ready, Michelle?
Yes. The next item, 14A, is consideration of a purchase and sale agreement for a property located on 413 West Boynton Beach Boulevard. As you know, CRA has received direction to actively pursue purchase of properties within the CRA district in order to further our redevelopment plan and our provide redevelopment opportunities. With this, there are some work being done on the Complete Street project along Boynton Beach Boulevard. Since we've actively have successfully spur redevelopment on the east side, the board has asked to look in the west side. This property became available through Mr. Jim Bonfiglio. He's here present in the audience right now. He has proposed to offer the land for his property up for sale with the offer of the asking price of $990,000 with a closing date on or before October 31st, with both parties able to extend for 30 days. The closing will also include the delivery of the business without any tenancies. There are currently 2 other tenants other than his own use as a law office there. Again, there'll be some taxes that are prorated. All the information that would be needed would be done at closing as well. This property is located on 0.22 acres. It's zone C2 and it approximately contains 97 and 44 square feet of office use. The zoning classification allows it to go through and be redeveloped at the density of 20 units per acre and maximum height of 45 feet. Again, this is 27% over the appraised market value that's provided in your agenda as attachment number, I think we're saying 4. We also provide the board with the property comparisons with recent property that's been offered or purchased by the CRA that has improvements on it. So unlike the previous lots that are vacant, the appraiser does take into account income producing property. The board can accept, the board can also counter offer the price that has been offered. And we're here to take any direction the board may have. And Mr. Bonfiglio is here as well, if there's any questions.
All right, thank you, Ms. Shutt. Mr. Bonfiglio, would you like to introduce yourself and add any additional comments on this?
Yes. Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners, and staff.
Sir, would you mind just bringing the microphone closer?
Yes.
Thank you. There we go.
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners, and staff. My name is James A. Bonfiglio. I am the owner of 413 West Boynton Beach Boulevard. I've owned that building for around 10 years now, and I'm an attorney. I have an active law practice there. I have 2 tenants. So it's a viable ongoing business, and I was actually not really interested in selling the property. Twee can attest to that fact. You all approached me to purchase the property, and I thought about it, and giving it some thought. I have some health issues, and maybe it's time for me to hang it up, I guess. My attorney is also available online if you want to speak to him about the offer. So I put together a proposal. I spoke with Twee, and I think she also spoke with my attorney, and that resulted in my May 15th letter and my attorney's May 22 letter. Those discussions with respect to the closing date. One of the problems is that my tenant is a Marie Louise Foundation. You may be familiar with her work. It's a nonprofit, and they help guide. My understanding is that they help guide low-income women through breast cancer issues and getting. And I really didn't want to put them out, but you know, if that's the terms of the sale, that's the terms of the sale. I'm going to have to terminate that lease. I'm also going to have to find, you know, new space for me to operate my law practice, and the third tenant will also have to find someplace else to go. So that's kind of how I arrived at the purchase price, because of those associated costs of delivering free and clear title with vacancy, with the property completely vacant. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's begin on my left with Board Member Kelly for questions, comments, either to Mr. Bonfiglio or to staff.
Twee, this, I mean, I know that, I guess explain to me how it came to be that we reached out, and because as you know, we do like receiving and purchasing property free and clear of tenants and all that, but you know, I'm a little concerned that we're forcing people out, and you know, this is, you know, it's there's a not-for-profit, there's an attorney. So how did we come to, you know, it's not like it's a vacant building or a vacant lot. So what brought us here?
So we typically would send out letters of interest for the adjacent properties that, you know, we have received direction to pursue. Typically, if the property owner feels an interest in you know, selling his property, he would come back to us. The first offer has to do with the tenancy. Again, we are not in the business of being a landlord because, again, our main purpose is to redevelop the property. So most likely, we would probably demolish the building. Had the tenant been a for-profit entity, they could make use of our grant assistance for relocation. We offer those for business improvements as well as rent assistance. Because it is a nonprofit, we are unable to offer that. However, you know, again, it's solely up to Mr. Bonfiglio to, again, it's a third-party agreement that we don't, you know, we're not forcing anybody out. One of the terms that we'd like to have is to have a vacant property because we don't want to have this continual landlord leasing you know, predicament. So again, Mr. Bonfiglio is able to work with his tenant and relocate his tenant or find another place, or we can help, you know, if anything that comes up that we know of, we can certainly send it out. We just can't fund the relocation for the tenants. So it's not, you know, it's your prerogative. You want to have any kind of post-occupancy. However, once again, eventually there should be a movement to have that property vacated for us to redevelop the site.
Commissioner Kelly, my tenant would be delighted if they could stay in the property after I close. I told her that she's free to approach you all to see what can be worked out. I would not object to closing a few months after to give her more time to, if that's not available to her, to give her more time. She does service the people in the area. Those are her clients. And that's why she sought my property. This all came about because I actually advertised the property about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, to rent the building, and she was one of the people that approached for rent. And apparently, the CRA saw the ad about a year later that I was open for renting the building, even after I had rented it out, and they asked me if I was interested in selling it, and that's how the offer came about.
Kind of defer to see what the rest of my colleagues think. I'm hesitant to do this just because I feel like it's upending a lot. But I'm willing to hear the rest of my colleagues.
Thank you, Board Member Kelly. Let's go to Board Member Hay.
I don't have a problem with the tenants finding another location because there are plenty around. Part of my concern is we normally go about 20% over appraised value. And we're talking 27 here. Converted that to dollars, what are we talking about? So that 7% is, I didn't do the math.
Yeah.
I should have. So to me, it's not critical, but it's important to gain this property. And we have been at this position in the past where we did pay over the assessed value, the appraisal value, if I can recall. I don't know how much we went over, but do you have that in dollars?
So 20% will get to 156,000 over this. In addition, he's at 54,000 over. That's 7%.
Okay, so that's not bad. So I know that there's no tax income from nonprofit. I realize that, but
So again, 936 is at 20%. 936,000 is at 20%.
okay. I guess where I'm sitting right now, I would say yes to this particular project, based on the fact that we do need to acquire property. We have this opportunity. It's not that much over appraised value, and even though it's not a critical situation, but I do think it's important. So I would be in favor of this.
Thank you, Board Member. Let's go to Vice Chair Turkin.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you, Chair. Just to clarify, Twee, what is the appraisal on this property? I don't have the backup in front of me.
The appraisal is $780,000.
And the asking price?
990,000.
190,000. And that's 27% more, correct? From what
Right.
we just- So I'm kind of with you, Board Member Hay. I think this is a good opportunity. I really don't like paying over asking, and I know we have that 20% margin. I know that we're looking, at some other lots in that area. I would be okay with paying over asking. My position is maybe following up with a counter offer. I know we don't want to negotiate on the dais, but I would throw out maybe, just under 900,000 as far as a counter offer goes. But I would like to move forward with this purchase for the right price.
Vice Chair, let me just piggyback on that briefly. You said we don't want to, negotiate on the dais, and that is my policy. However, one of the things we can do so to avoid doing that is direct our CRA staff to negotiate on our behalf, and they'll try to get the best deal possible to lower that if that is your intent.
Yes, that would be wonderful, Chair. That's where my position is at this point in time. But the 27% I'm not comfortable with. Maybe in the range of 12 to 17, I could probably swallow. So that's where I'm at now.
All right, thank you. I see Executive Director, you want to chime in?
And we could also bring back the purchase and sale agreements for you at, again, once
We don't have it here.
finish. Exactly, we would have to go back and consult with the attorneys anyway, but just as a point of.
All right, yep, thank you. Vice Chair, was there anything else you wanted to add, or was that it?
Can you hear me, Chair?
Yes, we can hear you.
No, the only thing is I just think that this is an important property. We're looking at that parcel, right next door. And I don't want to miss this opportunity. Again, I think it's got to be for the right price. And I just want to commend Mr. Bonfiglio for showing up tonight and speaking in person. I really appreciate you showing up, and hopefully we can get something going.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair. Let's turn now to Board Member Cruz.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Bonfiglio, for coming in person. I definitely appreciate that as well. And my stance is with a cooling real estate market and properties taking longer to sell, I don't think that this is the best time to overpay for a property. I see the value in potentially purchasing the property at the right price, but I believe that paying $210,000 over the appraised value is not fiscally responsible, and I don't think it's the right move. I do see the value of obtaining the property, but not for that price. So that's where I stand.
All right, thank you, Board Member Cruz. I stand with you as well as Vice Chair in that I believe that the 27% is too much. And I would support directing staff to go ahead and negotiate a better deal for the board. The only thing I want to add additional to that is I agree with what's been said from, for example, Board Member Kelly. We don't necessarily want to push the nonprofit out. And so I think it's really important that as part of this discussion and the final agreement, that we give them enough time to make that transition, right? I think, Mr. Bonfiglio, I believe you touched on it. If by any chance, do you know how many months they would need to transition out of and find a new location? Have you had that discussion with them?
I have had that discussion. My information is that they would need to find a new location. Maybe they're looking at February or March of next year.
So we could always set the dates on the agreement to time that, right?
The date of closing or the date of post occupancy?
I don't know.
I would not object to moving out the closing date if the criteria is that I could deliver to you a vacant property.
If that's doable with you, I'm comfortable with that.
Like I said, I gave them a break because they're a nonprofit. They do good work in the community. Gave them a break on the rent, and I work well with them to try to make them happy. I do know that they service a lot of the local community. I see it all the time, the women coming in and out, they're all from around the area, and that's what attracted them to my building. So I would try to accommodate them.
All right, thank you. Board Member Cruz, go ahead.
Just had a random thought, but we did have a new business opening up in our city. I think it's called Holistic Suites, and it's a large office space area that allows for different entities. It could be a nonprofit, it could be, a medical, like a chiropractor, different kinds of professions to come in and use the space. They're also able to use the conference room area. And my understanding is that it's pretty affordable. So I would definitely, if they're interested in if this were to move forward, if we could come to a fair price and if this were to move forward, then maybe mention that to them.
They do want to stay in the community because that's their client base. That was what was expressed to me
I think
anyways.
it's located on, I think it's on Woldbride and Congress. So it's not too far from the area. It's still within Boynton Beach, but just wanted to throw it out there in case that. maybe they'll
What's
take
that
them.
name again so I can write it down,
I
please?
think it's called Holistic
Commissioner
Suites.
Cruz? Holistic Suites?
Holistic Suites, yeah. I don't know. I just like to connect. If we're able to help people with a connection, it might not hurt. But yeah, that's what I had. And I do understand again the importance of potentially purchasing this property, but as we go into a cooling real estate market, we just want to be mindful of the price that we're paying for it. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you, board member. Any final thoughts? You look like you're about to say something.
No, we're just I was just gonna reiterate the direction we're given.
Yes, please do. I think we're at that stage.
So we are to negotiate the best price. Again, keeping in mind the appraised value. We also will be looking at a closing date to extend to March 2024, maybe the end of March 2024, in order for the tenant to find an appropriate new location. And again, with this, we would also need to ask the board to consider allocating more money through the budget for acquisition and specifically allocate specific amount for this, less than $100,000 in deposit that's being requested. And that's really it.
All right.
Well, my attorney's letter indicated, and I'm in agreement with it, that the deposit can be paid in installments.
Yes.
Plus at least 25,000 each. So I'll be more than glad to work with you on the deposit.
We can work on all the terms of that, but I know we do have enough this fiscal year for the deposits. If it's an installment, that's even better. But we will have all those terms and we'll meet with you after, tomorrow or whenever you're available to go over the terms so that we can present the board with a draft purchase and sale agreement with an agreed upon terms and condition.
Yeah, I've got medical appointments tomorrow, so
we'll contact you and you whenever you're available. Yeah, with Mr. Perry as well.
Yes, probably best to go through Mr. Perry. Yeah.
Of course.
All right, thank you, everybody.
They say about a person who represents himself, got a fool for a client and ask for a lawyer. So thank you very much. It's been a pleasant evening. Good to talk with you all. Good to see you again, Mr. Mayor Pincegura. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Excused. Thank you.
Yes. This concludes this item. We're now moving on to item 14B, and we only have 2 more items left. 14B, discussion and consideration of participating in the National Community Stabilization Trust Program. Ms. Schutt.
Yes, this is an available tool or a program available to the CRA and other government entities that allows us to take a look at distressed properties and to have the first look at acquisition of those properties. Should we be a participant here? It allows us to view the property first before it goes out to the market. Typically, the NCST is a nonprofit whose mission is to, again, restore vacant and abandoned properties for productive use, and then to revitalize and eliminate slum and blight, which is similar to our mission as well. The program requires that we participate and agree with the form contract because these are contracts that have been pre-negotiated with the banks. And the banks will include the larger banks, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Citi, Ocwen, the members of the bank, because they're offering this at a first look and at a somewhat discounted price. And if it goes to market, we have to have a fast turnaround with this. It allows us to designate our area. If any property comes up, we have 3 days to express an interest in it and do our due diligence. But what staff's asking the board, should the board wants to pursue being a participant in this program, that we ask that the board delegate and give me, the exec director, a certain cap that we can, go to purchase these property. Most of this property will be close to appraised value. One of the benefit is also a very low deposit security. It could be as low as $1,000, basically. So there's not a lot of upfront money. Most of the time when we do our due diligence, I've worked with this program before when I was at the Westgate CRA for the NSP2 projects. We were successfully able to purchase 13 properties. NSP means neighborhood stabilization.
All right, I'm just making sure everybody knows.
Yeah, and that NSP fund was available because of the recession back in 2007 due to the huge amount of foreclosure. So with this program, like I said, it's a tool in which we can purchase property that are distressed or in foreclosure. And we deal directly with this organization who has a direct relationship with the banks. So we will view it first before it goes out to market, but we have to respond quickly to do that. So with that, the board can go ahead and approve us to participate. There are certain documents that needs to be done, executed. We have applied to it. The board can table this and think about it a little more. There are certain websites that we can give to the board to better understand the program. But we ask that if it is going to be something the board wants to do, that to authorize me to go move forward with certain acquisition without having to go to the board, similar to Mr. Bonfiglio's property, to review each month when the property comes up. So.
Thank you. I, for one, am very, very interested in this. I mean, if you think about it, what she's basically saying is that this program gives you first dibs at acquiring distressed properties even before anyone else. You know, if you were a realtor, this is kind of a very powerful tool. But because we're a government agency with the mission for affordable housing, we'll have access to this. And Twee, I know we had this conversation about some of the process of, you know, what is the duration by which they'll let us know, and how much time do we have to act on it? If this is something this board can, would move into.
We had a video. I don't know if Vicki was successfully able to, if you could have a few minutes and you can see the intro video and how the program's set up, I would be, I'd recommend you'd look at it and see, because it is a 3-day and then 3-day process express interest. If the property comes into our area, and then if we express interest that we need it, we'll have our due diligence, and there's a quick turnaround, usually 7 to 14 days was what my previous experience has been. So it is not within the 30 days that we have within our monthly. And since if you approve the form contract, which they require us to accept the form contract, that way we just populate with the address, the property information, and the price in there. And then we can proceed to, after due diligence, we can proceed just to close on the property and have our attorneys work with their attorneys. So it's going to be at least, it's a maximum of about 7 to 14 days in turnaround time when we express an interest and we proceed to contract.
All right, Ms. Kerfman, if you could try to get that video to work. This room has not had a good history of videos, but maybe it might just work.
She can do magic.
She can do magic? Okay.
And IT can do magic. Maybe a little delayed and.
whether today or in a future meeting, what would this cost the CRA? I mean, this can't be for free.
It's nothing.
It's nothing.
I like nothing.
And so if you notice,
There's that saying, if it's free,
It's for me.
it's for me.
and if you notice, we did the tax deed bidding and all those other auction bidding. We're always constantly figuring out who's going to outbid us. So because, like they said, the expediency of this, because they can get a higher price out in the open market. They're just providing this because they know housing providers, affordable housing provider, land bank, and government entity have a harder time bidding in the open market. So they're making this available through this nonprofit. But there are some caveats for us to act faster.
All right, thank you. Let's go around the dais. I don't remember which side I started on last time.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. I'm just trying to even it out. Let's go ahead. Board Member Cruz, just go ahead.
I think this is a great idea. Thank you for bringing this up to me and for being proactive. I love purchasing things at a discount and not overpaying for them. So this is exactly where my heart is, and I appreciate it, and I like the idea. Thank you.
So before we move on, Board Member Cruz, since you are in favor of moving forward with this, some of the items that TWE needs from us is, if she were to find a property, how much are you willing to go above if that's what it comes to? Usually it'll probably be under, but if it were, so TWE, go ahead.
Yeah, usually what happens is, if one of the properties comes into our area, the little shaded area, we would let them know that we're interested. If we're interested, we have 3 days to tell them that we are interested, and they will hold that. What happens is then we come in with our appraiser and our inspector or whoever we need to do the due diligence and get that. As part of the inspection and the appraisal, we would have, at least we would know how much it's worth. And then we can ask them for their pricing. So if the pricing that in our appraisal is going to be different than their pricing, we can negotiate a little bit about that. Most of the time, you'd have to have very good reasons why they have to lower it. But most of the time, their valuation is probably market value as well. So we would normally go there. I would ask maybe a little more wiggle room, maybe a couple % over, so that we don't have to, lose the opportunity. Or we can say if it's too high, then we can just bail out right then and there.
What percent do you think it's reasonable?
I would ask for maybe 10 to 15% max. We will never go that far. We will try to get it as cheap as possible, but it gives us some wiggle room. So
Because they are foreclosures, I would be in favor of allowing up to 15%.
All right, thank you. Was there any other conditions you needed? What does it say here? I think give them the authority to execute on documents. Okay, that's fine. All right, let's go ahead. Let's go to Vice Chair Turkin.
Yes, no, I think this is great. I was excited to discuss this earlier, tweet. Yeah, I would be okay with in the range of 10 to 15%.
All right, wonderful. As for myself, I'm comfortable with 10 to 15% range as well if we have to overpay.
That 15%?
15 at most.
Up to.
Up to, right. Go ahead, board member.
No, I'm all for it.
Okay.
CST sounds great. I like free, but I always wonder what's the catch. The other question I do have is, how long would NCST be with us? Would it be 6 months, a year? How does that work?
We did this back in 2013. As you can see, they're still operating. Again, as long as the properties are available, as long as there's still distressed properties out there, they're existing for that. As long as the banks are allowing, the banks are participating. Again, that is their goal. Also, I know Teresa has worked with the NCST representative. I know there's a sample MOU, memorandum of understanding, that we'll have to also execute. That's in attachment 4. I think our attorney has looked at these, Mr. Ken Dodge, and he has some familiarity with the program as well with his past experience. So.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, board member. Board member Kelly.
Thank you. TWE, do we know how much this is used in our area? Are there other CRAs that are using this? Are there a lot of properties that are on this in our area? Have we looked?
I don't know currently. I don't think there's anyone here in Boynton who has used this, though I haven't really inquired with all the other, like the nonprofit housing provider. I don't know if the CDC uses this. I do know the county's community land trust uses this, and they've been using it since the neighborhood stabilization program was implemented back almost 10 years ago. So the nonprofits, I don't think Habitat is involved in this. Not the South Palm Beach County Habitat, but since they've merged with the greater Palm Beach County or West Palm Beach Habitat, that group may have used it. But I know it's been all the participants, all the subrecipients of the neighborhood stabilization program through the county has had experience with this. Neighborhood Renaissance has used this and other parties. So, but not anyone in the Boynton area that I know of currently are using this.
But as part of this item coming up, has there been conversation with the NCST as to are there properties in Boynton Beach? Like, are we agreeing to do this and then there's not going to be any properties?
Yeah.
So
there may not be any properties, but there may be in the next year or so if there's any correction. Again, it comes up as distressed properties become available. People are not paying their mortgage or there's
Right.
so we don't really know. You may get one or two properties out of the whole year, right? So again, this is just another tool. We're not committing any money towards this. As long as we have acquisition money, we can budget that and we can make sure that we have enough that's necessary. But yeah, we wouldn't know. There's no guarantee you'll get 5 or 1. But at least it's a tool as we establish this account. There is the mapping mechanism that we can go in and we get notices when one becomes available if we're interested. So there's no guarantee, but it's just, like I said, a tool that we need to set up in the future for future distressed properties.
got it. Okay. And then I guess my only request would be, moving forward that, how would you then report back to us the status if you have how are you planning to move forward? We're talking about giving you authority to move forward with pursuing a property. What then should we expect from staff?
We can provide quarterly reports to you. And again, it's based on how much acquisition money we have left. So if we, again, if we have, when we do our quarterly report or semi-annual report, we can certainly do that. If you'd want us to do that, we can report. If there are no properties that we've purchased, we can also provide that report. So it can be a quarterly report of what the acquisition status for this program is. And again, the nice thing about this program is they require also you to report after the sale's done within the categories that it was being sold to or how the property has been done. So there's a tracking with this computer program to do so. So we can report back to the board in the maybe a quarterly update, to do something like that, to report to the board the expenditures. But I don't think you're going to have an active listing of like 10 again right now, but you never know.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Anything else from anybody? Before we take a motion to approve the use of this, let's go ahead to public comment. If anybody would like to speak on this item, now would be the time to approach the podium. All right, seeing no one approaching the podium, let's go to those online. Ms. Kerfman, is there anybody with their digital hands raised? And again, this is item 14D. Oh, I lied. B. Thank you.
No hands are raised at this time.
All right, public comments on this item is now closed, and the motion here is to approve the CRA to participate in this National Community Stabilization Trust program with the parameter that we allow no greater than 15% above the appraised value when it comes to the purchase price. Is that right?
Yes.
Was there
for
anything
each.
else from the board? All right,
And also a quarterly report.
with quarterly reports. Okay.
Subject to
Starting,
legal review.
yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead, Teresa.
All right, come on up. That's all right. We're at the end.
I'm sorry, I heard 15% above
Up
purchase
to-
price. It should be appraised, right?
Appraised,
Okay,
appraised,
thank you.
yes.
Thank you.
The purchase price is no more than 15% of the appraised.
Appraised value.
All right, there we go.
So move.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second. Motion made by Board Member Hay, second made by Board Member Cruz. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those who oppose say no. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you. 14C, discussion and consideration of CRA board travel to the 2023 International Economic Development Council's annual conference. Sounds very exciting.
Yes, it is. It is. For the last 2 years, the CRA, Boynton CRA has received 3 awards from this organization. This is an organization, it's a nonprofit membership, nonpartisan membership, serving economic providers and developers in different communities, different cities and municipalities. So this year's conference will be in Dallas, Texas, September 17th through 20th. Sunday through Wednesday, which is a little different than some of our other conferences. This is an international forum, so you'll see cities and communities all throughout the U.S. It is also a learning opportunity to connect with other economic development providers. The reason why we're bringing this up is because staff has submitted a session to be the expert in one of the sessions. And we got selected to showcase our Heart of Boynton Village mixed use. So it's really, we've also submitted for some awards, but we won't hear from that until later. But
I mean, just the fact that we're even speaking at an international event, we're doing something right.
Yes,
right? So
yes, they're
that's,
recognizing the good works that we're doing, and they're wanting us to share how we're doing it so that others can replicate if they want to. But we want to provide, there are funds available for the board. If the board expressed an interest, it is going to be at the beginning of the school year also, and it's going to be the month before the FRA conference. So we would like, to have an idea of if the board can let us know by July. There's a deadline. July 28th is when the member rate starts getting higher, increase. The provided link will tell you about all the programs available, the tours available. This will be also a reimbursement, but I'm gonna ask that if the board books it on their own credit card, we can reimburse as soon as we get that. So you're not gonna have to wait for 3 months before you get reimbursed. And we, staff can help you with some of the conference, booking. We just want to make sure that, it gets booked and it gets reimbursed quickly. So if you would like to just take a look at it and contact Vicki Kerfman and let us know if you are interested in coming and when you would like to have any help if you needed for booking the travel, the lodging, and the flight. We can also give you the policy. I will ask finance to give us the policy on travel in terms of getting the best rate for the CRA travels. With that, that's it. That's all I
right,
have.
thank you. I don't know if we need any further discussion unless somebody has any question. Otherwise, if you'd like to go, just reach out to staff directly for coordination of all that. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Are there any closing comments from anybody, from any board members or from staff? Closing comments. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I heard a motion. There's a second. All right. All those in favor to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say no. All right. Motion passes. Have a good night. Thank you, everyone.